did things that we probably shouldn't have. We made things work that probably shouldn't have, but we didn't really have a lot of alternatives. It was like, we're going to make this work. And a lot of times when you don't know what you're doing, that's one of the best, that's one of your biggest assets sometimes, that you
Mm.
don't know all the things that you should know. And people are like, aren't you scared? And you're like, scared of what? Like, I don't know anything. Right. Like,
Yeah.
so a lot of times, that's your biggest weakness, is that you have no experience, and that you have um, you know, no experience. You don't have any contacts. You don't have any formal education in this thing. But a lot of times, that's your best asset, is that your weakness is your strength, and your strength can be the fact that you don't know any better.
Hey, this is a quick shout out from one of our awesome sponsors. Check this out. Thank you to Tracy and her team down at Tranquil Turtle Massage in downtown Coeur d'Alene. My wife and I see her and her team every single month for couples massage, and I'm telling you, it is the best thing ever. She specializes in Hanu infusion, Hanu ashiatsu, guasha, and manual lymphatic drainage. If you need a massage to get you feeling good and relaxed, make sure to reach out to Tracy and her team down at Tranquil Turtle Massage. Also mention that I sent you, and you get $25 off your massage package. Also, check out CDA Brows and Body Ink, where Tracy offers the best tattoo brows and plasma fibroblasting tightening with the first ever Aurora Pro Plasma Tighten machine, not a plasma pen. And don't forget to tell Tracy that I sent you to save $100 on your next tattoo brows or plasma tightening. Tom, you're a husband, your dad, fishing guide, entrepreneur, podcast host, you're co-host of Saltwater Experience, you're creator of Waypoint TV, and so much more, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Let's go back a little bit. You grew up in Chattanooga. What
I
was
did.
Charlotte like for you?
Man, I was very fortunate. I come from a good family. My parents spent a lot of time with me. My sisters were a little bit older than me, so they kind of got out of the house as I was entering high school,
Okay.
and kind of spent all of that time from 6th through 12th grade kind of by myself at the house, kind of, which was good and bad.
Sure.
Didn't have my
Sure.
sisters anymore, but I was an athlete. Spent a lot of time with wrestling, and my dad and I would fish some, but it wasn't until later that I really developed the bug for fishing. And that was like when I was probably a freshman in college, and I
Okay.
spent a summer in Yellowstone National Park, which that did it. After that, I was hooked, and that's what I've been doing since.
Come on. Yeah, I was gonna say, because you worked in Yellowstone and then you were a guide on a drift boat for 7 years. You end up moving to Key West. You spent a year learning the water before you even brought on a paid customer, which I think is awesome. It seems like you're always trying to improve and level up in life there. While spending that year just to learn your craft, what was that biggest lesson that you learned?
Be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient if you're not ready. Fortunately, I was in a good place to be patient. Not everyone's always in that place, but I didn't have any bills. I was able to take the money that I would make in the summertime, and it could kind of tide me over. Very meager budget, but I didn't have to take money for customers at the time. And so it was a little bit of advice that people had given me was, don't start taking customers until you feel like you're ready. And I didn't even feel like I was ready at the time that I took my first customer, and was kind of pressured into it. And then we went out that day and had one of the best days I've ever had in my entire guiding career. So I guess I was ready. But what that did was start my career off with a really good reputation, as opposed to starting off, kind of struggling, and
Yeah.
waiting and being patient. That's probably the lesson I learned from that.
Oh, man, that's awesome. And then I was reading through your story there. You and your business partner, you guys start this production company without really knowing, much about it. You create and you sell and you have it distributed to shows like ESPN and OLN networks there. But these aren't like 1 or 2 season shows. These are like Saltwater Experience been on air for 17 years. Blue ran for 14. I mean, Sweetwater ran for 11. How have you been able to accomplish the success that you have with these shows?
Um, well, it all starts. The whole reason that we got started with it is because I didn't want to be on the road doing tournaments anymore. I wanted to be home with my family.
Yeah.
So when you have a reason why like that, it makes a big difference in the outcome, I think. And a lot of people say, it's all about your why or whatever. But my why was that I wanted to be at home with my family. And so it's kind of one of those burn the boats kind of things where you're going to make this happen. And that's exactly what we did. We made tons of mistakes. We did things that we probably shouldn't have. We made things work that probably shouldn't have, but we didn't really have a lot of alternatives. It was like, we're going to make this work. And a lot of times when you don't know what you're doing, that's one of the best, that's one of your biggest assets sometimes, that you
Mm.
don't know all the things that you should know. And people are like, aren't you scared? And you're like, scared of what? Like, I don't know anything. Right. Like,
Yeah.
so a lot of times, that's your biggest weakness, is that you have no experience, and that you have um, you know, no experience. You don't have any contacts. You don't have any formal education in this thing. But a lot of times that's your best asset, is that your weakness is your strength, and your strength can be the fact that you don't know any better, right? You just
Mm.
go in and do things that other people wouldn't even think about doing, because you don't know any better. And that's kind of how we got started in the TV world. We just felt like, if we want to continue doing what we're doing, which was acquiring sponsorship and having these companies pay us outside of our daily guiding, we were getting paid to do tournaments. But that was taking us on the road all over the place, like a professional bass fisherman or a rodeo cowboy or anybody that does something like that. You're on the
Yeah.
road all the time, and I didn't want to do that. So we turned that into a television show, and never looked back. And then after that one was successful, we started another one, which was a slightly different format with different hosts. My show is inshore show, so we fish inshore saltwater, bonefish, permit, tarpon, those type of fish. And then there's a whole other world of marlin, sailfish, dolphin, tuna, that kind of world that we don't do every day, but there are certainly lots of professionals that do. So we got two other hosts, and they did a similar format show. That's Into the Blue, and it's still running. And then we thought, well, if that works in inshore fishing and offshore fishing, why wouldn't it work in bass fishing? So we start that, and that ran for 11 years. That was the first one. That one we discontinued this year. It kind of ran its course. And then almost immediately we were able to start another show called Life on the Water. So, I just think that your weakness is your strength, and in this case, that definitely played out.
I love it. Just the whole mistakes thing, and you're learning as you go, man. And diving into things without knowing everything is so. It's scary, but it's like that's the only way to get going on things. If you really want something, you just go for it. I actually just did fly fishing for the first time 2 weeks ago. I'd
Okay.
never done it before. Caught a little, they called it a cut bow
Okay.
up
Yeah.
here in Idaho. So it was a good
Oh
12
yeah.
incher and caught it off a kayak. And I was like, man, this is awesome. I only take on
Right.
my line 3 times that day. So I'll call that a win.
You're in a great place, man. Idaho. I mean, I wasn't very far from that. I was down in the southern part of Idaho, there on the South Fork of the Snake River, where I got started. But you just have some tremendous fishing there, and hunting opportunities.
Yeah.
You should definitely get into it.
Yeah, it was fun. I definitely am gonna, I think, make the switch over. From normal fly fishing to the fly fishing. I really enjoyed it. It was a great time there.
Yeah.
Uh, One of the things that I noticed too is, like, in entrepreneurship, the word necessity always seems to be a word that comes up over and over again. And your website says, out of necessity, you and your partner Rich created a digital network called Waypoint TV.
Yep.
Why did you decide to start Waypoint? And for those who don't know, what is Waypoint TV?
Well, Waypoint TV is a digital network. So, a conventional television network would be ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN. They have big buildings. They have lots of people that work there. A digital network, we can program a feed. We can do it basically on our kitchen table and not have all of the overhead there. There's a lot of other things that go on with a digital network. There's different advertising opportunities there, which are really exciting, where you can advertise digitally like you can advertise on the internet, where if you and I both go to the Wall Street Journal or whatever, you see a different ad than I see, right?
Right.
That can happen on streaming services as well, and it's getting more and more and more sophisticated. So the 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 tendency for a lot of people is to cut the cable, because it's very expensive. Young people don't even watch TV that way anymore. Things like Netflix and other things are getting more and more popular. And so, out of necessity, the necessity was that our television ratings were dropping, not because our television show wasn't as good as it once was, but because people are just cutting the cable and people are just not watching TV the way that they once were. And so we thought, okay, well, YouTube is possibly a solution, but we couldn't protect our sponsors. So we make all of our income through sponsor-driven things. So they pay us. We use their products on our television show, and we provide sponsor exclusivity on television. So if we have one outboard motor company, another outboard motor company can't buy a commercial on our show, right? So that's kind of how it works. It's this exclusivity, which is really, really important. And on YouTube, there was no way to provide that for our sponsors. So
Right.
somebody could be paying a lot of money, another person could pay pennies on the dollar and advertise on the same show. So that didn't really work for us. So the necessity was we need to find a place where people are going to watch. We could provide category exclusivity, and we could capture these viewers that are cutting the cable. And so we didn't see any other way to do it. We looked around. We would have been happy to use somebody else's platform. We really looked and looked and looked and looked, and nothing was really fitting the need. And so we just built it ourselves. Again, like just like we did with the television show, we didn't know any better. If I had known now what, or if I had known then what I know now about how expensive it could be and how problematic the apps can be to build and maintain, we might have thought differently about it, but we just
Sure.
launched right into it. And, we've been very fortunate because in the process of building what we thought was just going to be a destination app where people could watch outdoor programming, lots of other things have happened, like a whole new industry of platforms like Samsung Plus TV, Pluto, Zumo, Tubi, all of these different services that have live feeds were looking for content, and we have content, and we are a digital distribution platform. And so we did deals with all of these different networks, and actually that turns into our most number of eyeballs, our biggest revenue source. And it was not planned. It was just something that along the way we saw an opportunity, made a pivot, and said, you know what, the road we're on is a good one. We need to stay on that road, but let's look over here and see what this is. And luckily, we did that early, very early, and got in on the ground floor with Samsung Plus TV and many other services. And it's been fantastic for all of the different producers that are on our platform, and ourselves included, to be able to capture those eyeballs that are leaving conventional television and moving over to services like this.
Come on. I love that. And I'm one of those guys who did. I shut off the cable 10 years ago, man, and just use specific streaming services now, Hey, this is a quick shout out from one of our awesome sponsors. Check this out. Look, I wanted to tell you about a company I've been working with. They are amazing. If you are a podcaster, a motivational speaker, or a podcast host, and you're absolutely crushing it, you need to be featured in Newswire Magazine. Newswire Magazine is a cutting-edge business publication that shares stories of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and other high achievers who are crushing it in life and in business. It's the preeminent publication for entrepreneurs who are making a tremendous impact. Every article is seen by thousands of readers daily, so being featured in the magazine is a massive personal branding opportunity. Not only will you get massive traffic and SEO benefit from being featured in Newswire Magazine, but you'll also get instant credibility and authority. See if you qualify to be featured in Newswire Magazine today. I was looking at you have a personal record of working 175 days straight and then doing an immediate 125 days after that. I worked 65 days straight in my early 20s, and I thought that was a lot. But like for you, like you credit that being able to do that to your daily training. What does your daily training look like, and how do you work out on the mindset side of things? Because that's a mental toll that you have to take.
Good question. Well, I think pretty much everything that I do physically benefits my mind. I think that I choose very difficult workouts purposefully to do something that makes you kind of uncomfortable every single day. And my training is kind of a mix between CrossFit and SEAL Fit, Go Ruck kind of training, where depending on a lot of times we'll put an event out there that I want to do. I've done SEAL Fit Kokoro and Go Ruck Selection. Lots of different CrossFit events, or maybe it'll be the CrossFit Open or whatever. And I like to, maybe even running races. And I like to have something on the horizon that I'm training for. And that kind of, keeps me disciplined and keeps me motivated to get to the start line of that marathon, or get to the start line of that race, or be in the CrossFit event, or, you know, do something like SEAL Fit Kokoro, and then just be prepared for that. And then each of those things are similar enough to what I was doing when I was a professional fishing guide that it just immediately had um, transfer over to what I'm doing. So if I am, you know, in good enough shape to go to SEAL Fit Kokoro, I'm certainly in good enough shape to be a fishing guide.
Sure.
And I mean, but the fishing guide, you know, a lot of people don't understand what the physical requirements are to the type of fishing that we were doing. I mean, I'm in a 16-foot boat with somebody on the bow. I'm pushing the boat all day long with a 21-foot pole, and it's windy. There's current. It's very physically challenging, and to
Wow.
do that one day is something, to do it 10 days in a row is something, to do it 100 days in a row, that's pretty tough. 175, I don't know if it was my limit, but that just kind of happened that way because in the Florida Keys we have a lot of weather issues. You know, there are days where you cancel, and that particular year I just said, you know what, I'm just not going to take any days off. We cancel a lot, so I'm just going to book every single day, and I'll cancel when the weather's bad. That's when I'll rest, is when the weather's bad. And so that's what happened in that particular year. You know, we got 175 days of fishable days right in a row, which is, you know, that's not that common. I mean, you know, as a fishing guide, you're canceling days based upon your customers' expectations, your safety, on other things like that. But if you got people that are ready to go and they say, look, I know we don't have much of a chance of catching any fish today, but I'd rather go out there than sit in my hotel room. I came all the way down here to Key West. Like, let's go. I don't care if we can catch anything. So if that's the expectation, and you say, okay, well, you know, I mean, I can keep you safe. I don't know that we're going to catch anything.
Sure.
We'll go, and you know what? More of the times than not, we did catch fish, and it's one of those kind of things where you don't know until you go, and then when you do go, it's a lot harder work when it's blowing 35 miles an hour than it is when it's blowing 5. But you know, you can actually make things happen on days like that, and more often than not, you're glad you went.
Yeah. What was the time of break between the 175 and the 125 starting?
1 day.
1 day. Come on.
Yeah, 1 day and right back at it. You know,
Come
Key
on.
West is a very expensive place to live, and I was down there as a fishing guide trying to raise a family of 3, my 3 kids and then my wife. And my wife stayed home with the kids. She didn't work, so my sole income was being a fishing guide. And man, we needed every day we could get. It's really expensive there. I mean, it'd be, you know, like living in California or New York or somewhere. I mean, I think that it's probably competitive to the rents and what you see in a place like that. And I don't know. I just felt like you got to go.
Yeah.
You got to work.
Totally.
But I don't know if I answered the mental part of the training, and I learned a lot about the mental part of training from the SEAL Fit guys and from the Go Ruck selection, and just I think creating workouts that are really, really challenging has been incredibly good for my mental state and my mental toughness of being able to transfer that into a daily life. Like you got something going on, you're about to make a difficult phone call, you're about to, I don't know, have a difficult conversation with someone. Well, it's not going to be as hard as what we did this morning.
Sure.
You know, and if you can do that, then you can do pretty much anything. And
yeah, and you post those daily videos online on a blog. I'll share the link down below. It's great stuff, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, I'm a big podcaster, been doing it since 2017. I love podcasting and connect with people like you. But you created the Tom Rowland podcast, which has been downloaded over 1 million times, which is awesome. And it's a great show. People need to be checking out your show there.
Thank you.
Why did you decide to start the podcast? What's the mission of your podcast there?
The mission of my podcast was to talk to people that I'm interested in talking to, you know, and you know, I follow these people online, and I'm like, that is a pretty interesting person. Whether it's because they started a really cool business, or they're a professional athlete, or a UFC fighter, or some kind of fisherman that's in my space that I know, but I haven't ever had the chance to meet. And to call these people up out of the blue and just want to have an hour-long conversation with them is honestly, it's kind of weird. and to to have a podcast and to help them spread their message of whatever that is a lot more inviting.
Mhm.
And so the podcast for me has definitely been somewhat of a selfish pursuit. That I want to have these conversations. I'm interested in these people. This gives me an outlet for that. It gives me an outlet for creativity. And, with the television show, I have all of those elements with the television show. But let's just say we film a television show today, and that television show is going to get edited, and then there's a schedule of delivery. So what we film today might not air for 6 months or a year,
Yeah.
and sometimes even longer than that. Like if we filled up our entire season and there's only 12 shows in a year, so let's just say we finish filming those 12 shows. Well, we still have 4 days of filming left. Well, we're going to bank those shows for the following year. So sometimes we film and it doesn't come on the air for 2 years.
Wow.
And so there's a real long turnover between okay, this is a really cool story with a really cool person, or this particular thing is happening right now, and not to see that on TV for another 2 years is kind of hard, right? For your creative, outlet. And the podcast, I mean, you and I could have this conversation right now, and I could release this as a podcast in 15 minutes if I wanted to.
Sure.
And that is a much quicker turnover. And it's funny because I do kind of the same thing with the podcast. Right now, I've probably got 25 of them that I've already recorded that are waiting to be published. But
Yeah.
if I wanted to, I could turn over way more and turn
Sure.
them over way faster. And I do like that very much. I like to help other people get their message out too. I think that's what you're doing. In the description of your podcast, it's about helping other people to get noticed, and good for you, man. That's awesome. I think when you help other people, you're definitely on the road to getting what you want as well,
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. Like Jim Rohn said, man, help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
As we're getting closer to the end of 2022 and heading into 2023, like what are you most excited about right now?
Right now, I'm most excited about coming to your area almost. My boys I have two boys that live in Bozeman, Montana. They both, one has graduated from Montana State. The other one is at Montana State. And we have an annual elk hunting trip. And last year was the first year that we have been successful.
Okay.
We've done it for 5 years, bow hunting for elk. As you probably know, it's a very difficult pursuit. And to do it by yourself, unguided on public land is really, really tough. And so for 5 years, we had a lot of close calls. We had a lot of very exciting moments, but we never closed the deal. And last year we finally did. And it was an emotional, incredible experience, and we're getting ready to do that again. So that is probably what I'm the most excited about right now, is that trip, because that's going to happen in a week, and then again a couple of weeks later. We're going to do two trips this year, and then after that, we have a lot of production to do for the television shows, and we have a new show that we're producing. I just went to Alaska to shoot the first couple of shows there. And so between the television production and this elk hunting trip, and then a lot of things going on with Waypoint, it's a very exciting time in my life, at a time when, I thought maybe I'd be slowing down a little bit, because my kids are all three of my kids now are either out of college or in college. So they're out of the house. And I thought that would be a time of slowing down, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's going as fast as it can go right now.
Yeah, my kids are 9 and 12, and man, that I feel like every year goes faster and faster. They just started school this week. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe you're already in 6th grade.
Yeah, I know. That's what old people told us when we were kids, and you're like, what do you mean time goes faster as you get older? Well, it does. Those old people were right. That's what happens.
Yeah. Oh gosh, totally, man. Tom, you're an absolute world changer, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. This is an absolute amazing show, and I'm excited to share this with everybody. Really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to take a listen or a watch. It's truly an honor to be able to speak with such amazing guests, and I hope that they've made an impact on your life in some way, shape, or form. And you can do me one big favor that would be huge. Click that subscribe button, and then second favor, hit that share button. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you. Keep changing the world. I believe in you.